Have you ever found yourself in one of those fights, the ones about the dishes or the money or being late, and you just know, deep down, it's not really about that? Well, Dr. Sue Johnson's book, Hold Me Tight, has a pretty groundbreaking take on this. She says it's all about one single, terrifying question we're all asking our partner. Are you there for me? So today, we're going to dive into her idea that our need for connection isn't some kind of weakness. It's actually the key to a lifetime of love. Let's get into it. Okay, let's start with a scene that might feel a little familiar. It's that same old fight. You know the one. It seems to pop up out of nowhere, but always follows the exact same script. And it leaves you both feeling angry, totally alone, and just completely misunderstood.
You can just feel the sting in Carol's question to her husband, Jim, right? He was late for their movie night, again. And you know how this goes. She challenges him, he gets defensive, and kinda cool. She then brings up all his past failures, and poof, he just shuts down. They're stuck.
So what is really going on here? I mean, is this fight actually about Jim being late, or is it about Carol nagging? Well, Dr. Johnson argues that these arguments are almost never about what we think they're about. They're actually distress signals. They're about something much, much deeper.
And this, right here, this is the heart of it all. Those fights, they're really a protest against that terrifying feeling of being emotionally disconnected from the one person who matters most to you in the world. When our bond feels shaky, we panic. And that panic, it often comes out looking like anger or criticism or just shutting down completely.
So this protest, this panic, it doesn't just happen once and then disappear. No, it starts to build into these predictable, really destructive patterns. And Dr. Johnson has a name for them, the demon dialogues. These are the negative cycles that can literally take over a relationship and make you feel like there's no way out.
And here is the absolute game-changing insight. The real enemy isn't your partner, it's the pattern, the cycle itself. Once you can see that, everything changes. You can stop fighting each other and finally team up against the real enemy, this destructive dance that you're both trapped in.
Now, the most common of these dances is what she calls the protest polka. Just think back to Carol and Jim. Carol protests because he's late, that's step 1. Jim feels attacked, so he withdraws, step 2. Well, that makes Carol feel even more alone, so what does she do? She protests louder, step 3. And Jim, he withdraws even further, step 4. And round they go. See how each person's reaction is the perfect fuel for the others? It's a vicious, self-perpetuating cycle.
This quote explains so perfectly why withdrawn, or stonewalling, is just so powerful. When a loved one gives you nothing, it triggers a primal panic. I mean, research shows that primates, even human babies, will often attack a mother who's completely unresponsive. It's this desperate, hardwired attempt to get any sign of recognition, just to know you still exist for them.
So, what makes these dances so explosive? Why do we react so strongly? To get that, we need to look underneath the dance steps. We have to find our own personal emotional triggers, or what Dr. Johnson calls our raw spots.
Okay, so a raw spot is basically a hypersensitivity that comes from a past hurt. It could be from an old relationship, or it could go all the way back to your childhood. Think of it like a really bad sunburn. When your partner accidentally pokes one of these spots in the present, your reaction is huge because it's carrying all the weight and pain from the past.
Do any of these sound familiar? I bet they do. These are the core fears we all have about attachment. When a raw spot gets hit, it sends a lightning bolt of panic right to our brain. And it's screaming a terrifying message like, I'm being abandoned, or I'm not good enough, or I just don't matter to you.
The story from Linda in the book is just such a powerful example. Her mom never praised her, and it created this deep hunger for recognition. So now, as an adult, when her husband seems to dismiss a simple question about how she looks, it doesn't just feel like a small thing. No, it feels like that profound childhood wound is being ripped right open all over again.
Recognizing the dance and finding your raw spots, honestly, it's like seeing the Matrix for the first time. You can finally see the code behind your fights. But, okay, how do you actually change that code? How do you write a whole new, more loving song? The shift is just profound. You stop the blame game, you stop the accusations, and instead, you take the huge risk of being vulnerable. Instead of yelling, "You're always late," you learn to say something like, "When you're late, I start to feel really alone and unimportant, and honestly, that scares me." That one change can rewrite the entire conversation.
So this is it. This is the roadmap that Dr. Johnson gives us for rebuilding that connection. We've already talked about the first two crucial steps, recognizing the demon dialogues and finding the raw spots, but the journey keeps going. Number 3 lets you safely go back and look at an old fight with his new understanding. And then, the big one, number 4, Hold Me Tight, teaches you how to express your fears directly and actually ask your partner to be there for you, creating this incredible moment of connection.
And once you built that foundation of safety, then you can tackle the bigger things. Conversation 5, Forgiving Injuries, isn't about just forgetting what happened. It's about really processing the pain of a deep hurt so it doesn't control your relationship anymore. And number 6, Bonding Through Sex and Touch, is all about making sure your physical intimacy is a celebration of your emotional safety, not something separate from it. It's a whole journey from defensiveness back to a real partnership.
So, after all that hard work, after you've found your way back to each other and you have this secure, loving connection, how do you protect it? How do you make sure it lasts a lifetime? Well, this is the final and maybe most important conversation.
You know, love isn't some destination you just arrive at. It's more like a garden that you have to tend to. And this is how you do it. You consciously create these little rituals of connection. You build up this shared library of memories that remind you why you chose each other. And, my favorite one, you co-author a heroic story of us, a narrative of how you faced down those demons together and won.
And really, this is the profound and hopeful message of Hold Me Tight. Our moments of pain and disconnection, they don't have to be the end of the story. They can actually be the very things that lead to a stronger, deeper, and more resilient love than you ever thought was possible.
So as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with this to think about. Instead of focusing on what your partner is doing wrong, what's the vulnerable truth, the fear, the sadness, the loneliness that's hiding underneath your anger or your silence? Because sharing that one feeling, that might just be the first step in a completely new and loving dance.